When grief lingers, a journey through love, loss, and letting go. It's been 5 years since my wife Lisa lost her mother. But in many ways, it feels as if I've lost Lisa too. This isn't the story of an impatient husband wanting his wife to get over her grief. I loved Lisa deeply, more than I ever thought I could love someone. But grief can do strange things to people. And Lisa's sorrow over her mother's death has become a shadow in our lives. A shadow so deep that it has swallowed her whole and left me holding on to just a fragment of the woman I married. When her mother was first diagnosed with lung cancer, everything came to a halt. We put our lives on hold, both taking time off work, staying at her mom's side through every surgery, every treatment, and every painful night. Lisa was her mother's only child, and their bond was unbreakable. I didn't think twice about being there for her. For both of them, we faced that terrible journey as a team. And when the end came, I grieved with her. I thought that with time, we'd find our way through it together. In those first months after her mother passed, Lisa was understandably shattered. She cried every night, and her sorrow seeped into everything: our conversations, our home, our lives. I took over most of the parenting and household duties, hoping to give her space to heal. Our 3 kids were young, but they noticed her absence, felt the shift. I assured them, "Mommy just needs some time." But weeks turned into months, and then into years. Lisa's grief did not lessen. Instead, it grew, transforming her into someone I hardly recognized. As each major holiday approached, Thanksgiving, Christmas, her mother's birthday in January, Lisa would sink deeper into her sorrow. Sometimes spending whole days in bed, silent and distant. I would go to work, drop off the kids, pick them up, make dinner, put them to bed. Half the year, I was a single parent, while Lisa was somewhere far away, trapped in her grief. I tried everything I could think of. I encouraged her to continue with therapy, to reach out to friends, to try and re-engage with us. But she refused, insisting that therapy wouldn't help, that nothing would. She'd say, "You don't understand. You can't understand what it's like to lose your mother." And in a way, she was right. I hadn't lost a parent. I could only imagine her pain, but I didn't truly know it. Still, I was her husband, her partner, and I wanted to help. I just didn't know how. One night, I wrote her a letter. I poured my heart into it, trying to convey both my love for her and the struggle I was facing. I told her how much I missed her, how the kids needed her, and how deeply I wanted to see her heal. I didn't mention divorce. That was a word I couldn't bear to put down on paper. Instead, I asked her to consider seeking more help, for herself and for our family. When I read her the letter, Lisa listened in silence. Her face was blank, her eyes distant. After I finished, she sat there, staring past me. Then, she said in a voice I hardly recognized, "I hope when your parents die, someone doesn't tell you to just get over it." And with that, she turned and walked away. I was stunned. The woman who had once shared everything with me, who used to lean on me for comfort and support, now seemed to resent me for even suggesting that she try to heal. It was like a slap in the face, a reminder that I was helpless to reach her. As much as I loved her, a part of me felt like I was drowning in her sorrow. And I began to wonder if there was anything left of our marriage to save. In time, I noticed small, peculiar changes. Lisa would go out more often, sometimes late at night. I would ask her where she was going, but she'd respond curtly or not at all. One evening, after she left her phone on the table, a message notification popped up from someone named Stacy. My heart sank as I realized Stacy was a cover name. And she had been texting someone named Mark, a coworker I'd met once or twice but had never really thought about. Curious and frightened, I skimmed through the messages. I saw words of comfort from him, messages that should have come from me. She had been pouring her heart out to him, sharing things she no longer shared with me. Confronting her was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. She didn't deny it. She even admitted that Mark understood her grief in a way I couldn't because he, too, had lost a parent. She claimed they were only friends, that nothing physical had happened. But the words in her texts, the comfort she found in his messages, they felt like betrayal. I felt an ache that I couldn't shake, the realization that I had lost her to more than just grief. Days turned into weeks, and my mind spun with thoughts of what to do next. I didn't want to break up our family. I had hoped that one day Lisa might come back to me, that somehow, the woman I married would return. But as time passed, I began to understand that Lisa might never come back from this. She was lost in her sorrow. And as much as I wanted to save her, I had to face the fact that I couldn't. She was the only one who could find her way back. Eventually, I made the difficult decision to file for divorce. I took comfort in the fact that I had tried everything, that I had given her all the love and support I could. For the sake of my kids and my own sanity, I had to move forward. I hoped that one day, Lisa would find peace, that she would realize the depth of the family she was leaving behind. I had to let go of the guilt and remind myself that her journey was her own, and that I had done all I could. As we began the process, I focused on creating a new life for my children and me. I found joy in small things, taking the kids to the park, cooking together, and making new memories. My heart still ached for the woman I once knew, but I was learning to find happiness again. Looking back, I realized that grief is a powerful force, one that can reshape a person's entire world. But sometimes, the love we feel isn't enough to bring someone back from that place of darkness. In letting Lisa go, I was also freeing myself, allowing myself to find peace in knowing that I had done my best. Grief might have taken Lisa from me, but it taught me a lesson that I would carry for the rest of my life, that sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is learning when to let them go. When trust and finances collide, my journey from accusation to self-discovery. It began with something as simple as a purchase. Just one decision, and my world shifted from stable to precarious, leaving me questioning everything I thought I knew about trust and partnership. For years, I thought my husband John and I were on the same page financially and emotionally. We built a good life together, our marriage underpinned by shared values and careful planning. We worked hard, we saved, and we each had our own hobbies. I thought I was free to enjoy my interests, just as he did, without suspicion or guilt. But I was wrong. When I bought myself a gaming setup, a new desk, a powerful computer, and a comfortable chair, it felt like a simple act of self-care. I hadn't indulged like this in years, as I'd been so focused on saving and building my career. And though it wasn't cheap, I used only my fun money, savings, the funds we had both agreed could be spent without consulting the other. I remember feeling excited, eager to immerse myself in this old passion of mine. But when I told John about the purchase, he didn't share my excitement. Instead, he looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, anger mixed with something else. Something more profound. Betrayal, perhaps. "Why didn't you tell me you had so much saved up?" he demanded. His voice was tense, his words laced with accusation. He accused me of financial infidelity, a term I'd only heard in passing. I was taken aback. Financial infidelity? Had I done something wrong? I had assumed he knew about my savings, and I didn't think it was necessary to report every penny I'd saved. But to him, my silence felt like a betrayal, as if I had been hiding something crucial. I tried to explain that it was my own money, set aside from my personal account. But he was insistent. "Why did you keep it from me?" he asked. "What else are you hiding?" In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about the money. My purchase had unearthed something deeper, something unsettling. John suggested that I return the items and insisted we impose a cap on our personal savings, meaning that anything over $2 would have to go into our joint account. That rule, of course, would only favor him since he usually spent his fun money immediately on golf, designer clothes, and sports memorabilia. As he demanded these changes, I felt my stomach twist. It felt like he was punishing me for being careful with my money, for being a saver rather than a spender. It was as if my financial prudence was somehow an insult to him. As the days passed, his resentment only grew, spilling over into every part of our lives. He began critiquing things he'd never seemed to mind before: my appearance, my career, even my personality. He said that I wasn't ambitious enough, that I was coasting while he was pushing himself to succeed. He pointed out that I worked from home in a flexible tech role, whereas he worked grueling hours in finance, surrounded by high-powered, polished women who managed to look effortlessly glamorous despite their demanding careers. He compared my practical, understated wardrobe with theirs, lamenting that I didn't put more effort into my appearance. I remember feeling shocked and hurt. I'd always assumed that my dedication to our home, keeping it tidy, cooking meals, creating a peaceful space, was enough. I wasn't sure how to respond. And for the first time, I found myself doubting if I was indeed enough for him. Had I been too comfortable? Too complacent? One evening, as we argued, John blurted out something I wasn't prepared to hear. He felt I wasn't pulling my weight. He saw himself as the one making sacrifices, shouldering the burdens of success, while I simply enjoyed the benefits without putting in equal effort. I tried to explain that my work-life balance allowed us to enjoy more stability, to live without constant stress. But it seemed he didn't see it that way. His resentment had poisoned his perspective, making my choices seem selfish and short-sighted in his eyes. The tension reached a breaking point one day when I stumbled upon a message on his phone, a message from a woman named Amy. My heart sank as I realized the truth. John had been having an affair. My husband, the man who accused me of financial infidelity, had been hiding a betrayal far deeper than mine. I confronted him, and he finally admitted to it. He justified his actions by twisting our entire history, painting me as a partner who hadn't been supportive or ambitious enough. He even told Amy that I was a financial drain, a burden that kept him from reaching his full potential. In the days that followed, I felt as if I were living in a fog. I couldn't understand how the man I had loved and trusted could see me this way, let alone share these twisted truths with another woman. And to add insult to injury, I learned that Amy was pregnant with his child. The hurt was so profound. I didn't know if I'd ever recover. The life we'd built felt like a house of cards, one that had come crashing down around me. I made the difficult decision to contact a lawyer. It was clear that our marriage was over, and I needed to protect myself, both emotionally and financially. I secured the house I had inherited, changed my accounts, and began the process of detangling our lives. I even tried reaching out to Amy, hoping to set the record straight about who I was and what our marriage had truly been like. But she chose to believe John's version of events, clinging to his fabricated stories despite my attempts to share the truth. As I moved forward, I realized how much I had sacrificed in trying to please someone who had never truly valued me. For years, I had shaped myself around his needs, his demands, his expectations. I had dimmed parts of myself, compromised on things that mattered, all in the name of keeping peace. But now, standing alone, I began to reclaim those lost pieces. I found strength in my independence, a sense of purpose that wasn't tethered to anyone else's validation. I filled my home with warmth and laughter again, inviting friends and family to stay and support me. I focused on my career, embracing the freedom it afforded me. And slowly, I started to believe in myself again. I stopped questioning my worth, stopped letting John's criticisms echo in my mind. Instead, I built myself up, piece by piece, finding peace in knowing that I had done my best, that I had loved deeply, and that I was worthy of happiness. Reflecting on everything, I realized that my journey wasn't just about surviving betrayal. It was about rediscovering my value, understanding that my worth was never tied to anyone else's approval. I had been true to myself, even when John had not. And in the end, that was enough. So, to anyone who has felt judged or diminished in their relationships, know this: you are enough. Your worth isn't defined by someone else's perception. It's something you carry within, something no one can take away from you. And when trust is broken, as painful as it may be, sometimes it's an opportunity to find strength you never knew you had. When family boundaries are broken, a shocking story of betrayal, secrets, and healing. It was supposed to be the happiest period of their lives. A young woman, barely 20, had recently welcomed a beautiful baby girl into her life with her husband, who was only 2 years older. The couple was just beginning their journey as a new family, discovering the joys of parenting and making plans for their future. However, little did they know, a series of shocking events was set to unfold, shaking their relationship with their family and testing their trust and boundaries in unimaginable ways. This story unfolds with an unexpected twist, a betrayal so deep that it raises questions about family loyalty, boundaries, and the lengths to which people go to get what they want. As I share this story with you, let's dive into the consequences of broken boundaries and the painful journey that ultimately led to healing and self-discovery. From the moment the baby was born, the young mother felt a sense of unease around her in-laws, particularly her mother-in-law, Mill. This Mill had been incredibly insistent on her having a son. In her mind, the family name and legacy rested solely on having a male heir. This traditional mindset clashed with the couple's hopes of simply raising a happy, healthy child. Yet, the mother-in-law's fixation on a grandson grew more intense with each visit to see the newborn. During every interaction, the mother-in-law would make offhand comments about trying again soon, and jokingly inquire when they'd attempt for a boy. Although the couple laughed it off initially, her persistence became increasingly uncomfortable, and each visit became an opportunity for the mill to bring up the topic. It wasn't until later that the young mother would realize how far her mill would go to make that wish a reality. The first sign of betrayal came innocently enough. One evening, as her husband poured her a drink, she suddenly felt a wave of nausea and anxiety wash over her. Something felt off, almost like an intuition that something was wrong. Putting down the glass, she voiced her concerns to her husband, who shrugged it off at first, but agreed to take a pregnancy test to ease her mind. To their shock, the test came back positive. As disbelief gave way to confusion, questions began to swirl. How could this have happened? They were using contraception, had been cautious, and hadn't planned for another child so soon. Puzzled, they pondered how they could have become pregnant under such careful conditions. They hadn't even shared the news with anyone, preferring to keep things private until they understood the situation themselves. However, she eventually confided in her sister-in-law, Sil, someone she felt close to and trusted. What followed was an unexpected revelation. With wide eyes and a trembling voice, the Sil confessed something unimaginable. The mill had been tampering with their contraceptives, secretly poking holes in their condoms to ensure her son and daughter-in-law would conceive again. Apparently, the mill had disclosed this to her daughter, boasting about how she was fixing the situation to achieve her goal of a grandson. The sister-in-law admitted she hadn't taken her mother seriously at first, believing it was just venting frustration. But now, the evidence spoke for itself. The mother's mind raced. Every interaction with her mill now took on new meaning. Every helpful offer to watch the baby. Every moment she'd been left alone in their house. And each time she'd insisted on cleaning was now seen through the lens of betrayal. Her mother-in-law's intrusive behavior had been part of a calculated plan. What once seemed like overbearing enthusiasm now revealed itself as manipulation. In the days that followed, the couple grappled with what to do next. Anger, betrayal, and heartbreak swirled within them. They had to ask themselves, how far were they willing to go to establish boundaries and protect their family? This wasn't just about an unwanted pregnancy, it was about the complete violation of trust and bodily autonomy. Their next steps were both methodical and empowering. The young mother decided to collect evidence, buying a hidden camera and securing new condoms to determine if the mill would try tampering with their contraceptives again. Though the idea of gathering proof may seem extreme, it was an effort to regain some control and to make sure that her mill couldn't manipulate them further. They also decided to go no contact with the mill. A difficult but necessary decision to protect their growing family and mental health. The online community reacted strongly to their story. Many people shared their experiences with toxic family members, offering advice and support. They urged the young mother to seek therapy to process her emotions and to avoid any relationship between the mill and her children. This was a time to prioritize her family's well-being and redefine what family meant to her. A similar story involved a family who lived under the same roof as their in-laws to save money while they searched for a new home. Initially, everything went well. They all shared chores and enjoyed meals together. However, over time, the mother-in-law began asserting control, dictating when they could go out, what they could eat, and even giving unsolicited parenting advice. Tensions rose when the mother-in-law began intruding into their private space, going through personal belongings, and trying to make decisions for the couple's child without consulting them. One day, the wife came home to find that her mother-in-law had rearranged their room and even taken the liberty to get rid of some of their things, deeming them unnecessary. This was the tipping point. The wife and her husband sat down and set boundaries, insisting on clear rules if they were to remain under the same roof. It was a difficult conversation, but it ultimately saved their relationship and restored their sense of independence. When it comes to family, boundaries aren't always easy to establish or maintain, especially with those we love. The closer we are, the more blurred these lines can become. But without clear boundaries, we risk compromising our values, privacy, and mental well-being. This young couple's story is a powerful reminder of why it's so important to set and enforce boundaries. Even with those who mean well. In any relationship, mutual respect and trust are essential. Sometimes, enforcing these principles requires taking difficult steps, such as limiting or even cutting contact with those who can't respect your boundaries. While family dynamics can be complex, true love and respect do not come from controlling or manipulating others but from supporting their autonomy and well-being. As they say, family is not always defined by blood, but by the respect, trust, and understanding that bind us together. For this couple, healing meant choosing each other, protecting their children, and defining a future that put their needs first.